Welcome to this Excel tutorial. Today we want to look at three main areas of Excel. We're going to look at formatting, we'll look at formulas, and we're going to look at graphing. So let's start with the formatting portion of this tutorial. First of all, what you see on the screen here is Microsoft Excel 2010. Everything that you see in the main area here is what we're going to be working with. Each of these little rectangles are called cells. And each cell has a specific cell address or a cell name. And the way we designate what a cell is by the cell row, which is a horizontal grouping of these rectangles, and a column, which are the vertical groupings. So this cell is F9. You can see right here it's in column F, row 9, so that position is F9. Here it is D4. You can see the name of the cell is highlighted in both the row and the column position. And then up here in the name box, you see the name D4. The cell address, or the cell name, is always its column letter followed by its row number. Now, you can see we're on the page here that says Sheet 1. Each of these different sheets makes up a spreadsheet, and we want to rename the sheet so that it makes sense. So what we're going to be talking about in this tutorial is the number of packages that we send in a given week. So maybe instead of Sheet 1, I would call this number of packages. I can type it in right there, and I've renamed that tab. It gives me more information than just Sheet 1. So now I want to begin typing in some values. And the way we type values into Excel is we select the cell that we want to type the values in, and we start typing away. So I'm going to start by typing in day of the week, and then we'll choose number of boxes. Now if you look at day of the week and number of boxes, you can see I can't see everything in the day of the week column because the column is not wide enough. If I want to change the width of the column, I can go up to where all these columns are, and you see how my mouse cursor is changing as I move along? When my mouse cursor is a double arrow, that means I can resize something. So I'll click and hold with the left mouse key down, and then I'll drag out so that my day of the week cell is now large enough to contain the whole phrase day of the week. I'll repeat the same thing with number of boxes. We'll stretch that out. And I'll type in the day of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And the number of boxes we'll just say is 251, 658, 959, 363, and 524 for the week. And then at the bottom we'll put a total. Now, looking at that formatting, it's pretty plain. I'd like to make the formatting a little bit better in terms of changing the font, changing some colors around, and doing some shading. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change the font. I don't like this default 11 font. I want to make it Arial in size 14. So I can highlight and select the cells that I want to make Arial in 14. So I can click and drag. Then I can go up to my toolbar up here. I'll change the size to 14. I'll change the font to Arial. And I'm done with that. Now once again I can see that my size of the columns need to be adjusted so I can see the entire title right there. If I wanted to change the font of the entire sheet, what I would do is I would go between A and 1 here and click this box. That highlights the entire worksheet. Then I can change the size to 14 and Arial. And now it doesn't matter which cell I type in, whether I'm way out here, it'll be Arial and size 14. Now that I've got that font changed, I want to designate my headings a little bit better. So I want to bold this. And the way I bold is I highlight the cells that I want to bold, and then I click on the bold button right here. Bold. I'll also make the total bold, and I'll also make it italics just so that it jumps out a little bit more. So if I want to apply bold, italics, or underline, I highlight the cells that I want to do that to, and then I click the button on the toolbar that does that. I also like to highlight these headings, and let's give some shading to it so it jumps out a little more. And we do the shadings with the fill button right here. Here's the fill color, and I'm going to choose this fill to be yellow. And for my total down here, I'm going to make my fill a light gray. looking a little bit more professional as we go along. But it'd be nice also to see where do these cells end. And I'd like to add a border for that. You can see right here, once I did the fill, I really can't see where the cells end. So I'm going to add a border. And the way I add a border is I highlight the cells that I want to add the border to, then I go to the border button, which is right underneath the font. And right now it says bottom border. If I click this little drop down arrow, I'm going to see all my different options. If I want a thick border, if I want just a border on the bottom or the top, or if I want to draw my own border, I can do that. I'm just going to choose all borders because I like having a border around every single side of my cell. The last thing is those numbers would look a little bit better centered. So I want to center these, and I can click the cell and then go up to alignment here and click center text. So highlight the cell that I want to do it to and then click the option in my ribbon at the top. However, if I wanted to make the whole column centered, I can click on column E, which will highlight the entire column, and then I can click center. And now every single cell in this column would be centered. One last thing I'd like to do is I'd like to add a title to this little chart that I created, this little table. And I'm going to put this as packages shipped this week. Now it would be really nice if I could center this packages shipped this week over the entire table. But if I click the center button, it just centers it in that cell. That's where the option Merge and Center is going to help me. What Merge and Center will do is it's going to combine cells together that are next to each other and then center the data across those cells. So right here I can highlight both of those cells and click on Merge and Center, and I can see now I've got one big cell and packages shipped this week is centered across both cells. I can make that font a little bit bigger and bold to indicate that that is my title. I'll make it 16. 18 is a little too big. So there's my packages shipped this week. So with that, we looked at cells, columns, and rows. We looked at renaming the spreadsheet tab. We looked at resizing columns, entering data. We looked at bolding and italicizing as well as filling. We looked at adding a totals area, we added borders, and we merged and centered. So those are the main things we want to look at in terms of formatting. The second area we want to look at are formulas. And what a formula will allow us to do is to automatically add, subtract, take averages, or any other mathematical calculation we want to do. So right here in my example, I'd like the number of boxes that was shipped during the entire week. And I don't want to have to manually add 251, 658, 959, and so forth. I want the computer to do it automatically. And the way we can do it automatically is we can go up to the Formula tab, and on the left-hand side we can see Auto Sum. We can do an Auto Sum, Auto Average, we can count, do a max, we can do a min, or there's more functions. I'm going to click Sum. And you can see that Excel will automatically put in a formula that says equals sum E5 colon E9. What that is saying is I want to take the sum of cells E5 through E9. So E5, E6, E7, E8, E9. I'm going to add all the values that are in these boxes that has been highlighted. So if I hit enter, the sum will automatically be calculated. Now let's say I made a mistake with 959 and really this was 1,000. If I type in 1,000, you can see here the total was automatically updated. Or if this should have been something big, total gets updated. So go back to 959 or 956 or whatever it was. But you can see the total then goes back to whatever we had. I could also do sums horizontally. Let's say I've got 12, 15, 17, and 19. If I wanted to do a sum, I can type in myself equals sum, and I can see all my options for formulas that come up, equals sum, and then I put it in a parenthesis, and it asks me the sum of what numbers. And I can click and drag the numbers that I want to take the sum of. I can also do the same thing with averages, 34, 980, or 978, and 45. If I wanted to take the average, I can type in equals average, highlight those numbers, and hit enter. And you can see that I get an average right there. If for some reason I want to increase or decrease the number of decimal points that appear, I can go up onto the main toolbar and I can see increase and decrease decimal. And the problem will appropriately round based off of however many decimals I've got. So let me resize this a little bit. You can see I've got 352.333. I can increase the decimals or I can decrease it to the nearest whole number. So I can either increase or decrease decimals. Let's say with this formula though, I didn't want to just click and drag everything. Let's say I wanted the average of just 34 and 45. If I wanted an average of different cells and I don't want to click and drag, I can hold the control key down and just select the cells that I want. So here for the average, I can get the average of just G9 and I9 by holding control down. And I can do that with anything. I could do equals average. If I want the average of the cell, the cell, the cell, and that cell, I can hold control down, select the cells, and I'll get the average of those cells. So just a little bit with formulas that we want to look at. Holding the control key down and we can select different pieces for the formulas. So with that, we looked at formulas, we look at how they're dynamic, we look at how formulas are set up, where each formula has an equal sign, a name, and then the cells that you want to perform the formula with. And if you want to do a formula on non-consecutive cells, you can hold the control key down and then select the cells that you want to do the formula with. The final portion of this tutorial then gets into graphing. And I like to create a quick graph or a quick chart of what I've got for packages shipped this week. And on the Insert tab, there's an option here for different charts. So in order to take advantage of this, I want to highlight the data that I want to chart. And notice I also highlighted the headings for this as well. That's going to give me my scales that I'm going to have and the names that go with those scales. I just won't see the word series appear. So now I've got that data highlighted, I'm going to go up and I'm going to click on a column graph. Doesn't matter which one I click on, but I'm going to choose the column graph, and I like the 3D column graph. So I'm going to choose that. And just like that, I'm going to get a small chart created for the number of boxes that I have shipped. You can see it automatically put in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Since I had that selected, it automatically put in number of boxes here as being my series name because I had a number of boxes highlighted right there. You can see that then the days of the week go at the bottom since I had those highlighted. If I want to change something, I can just click on it and type in what I want. Maybe I wanted this to be packages shipped this week, as opposed to number of boxes. If I need to change a number back in my table here, I can just type in 258. The chart will automatically rescale and resize. And if there's something in here I don't like with my chart, I can select it, right-click, and then I can choose Format the Data Series, or I can change the series chart type. So I can go through here by right-clicking and choosing some additional options to this packages being shipped this week. The final thing then is saving my work. If I want to save the Excel document, I can click on the Save button in the upper left-hand corner. It says Save there. Or I can go to File and then choose Save. Once I click on the Save button, I'll be asked for a file name and a type. Since I'm working with Excel, I either want to choose Excel 97 to 2003 if I'm going to send this to an older computer, or Excel Workbook. And we want to give this a meaningful name. So I'm just going to call this number of packages. And then we can click the Save button to save our work.